Hello, my name is Everett Yang and I am the Secretary for SBCS. And today I'll be bringing you a recipe that's very near and dear to my heart. That's right, they're soft, perfect, soft chocolate chip cookies. Now, what puts these cookies makes them any different from any other cookie? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, you gotta make sure that you don't overcook them. That means an easy mistake that people make when it comes to making cookies is that they leave them in the oven a little bit too long because they're looking for that they want to make sure that it's done and they want to make sure that it's crispy, which is understandable. However, this leads to one of two things. Either a okay cookie that is a little dry or an overdone and burnt cookie. Now, because we don't want either of these, we're going to make sure that we don't overcook these cookies. And that means having a very low baking time of like 9 to 10 minutes. And then you may ask me, well, how do I know that my cookies are going to be done, that they're going to be fully cooked inside? It's because we're going to let the residual heat finish up the cookies while they rest on the cooling rack. That's right, you cannot just bite into these cookies. You have to learn the art of patience. Second of all, we're going to do a thing that's called not overbeating the flour. As you may or may not know, when it comes to flour, beating it more causes it to develop gluten, which causes bread to have that stretchy texture in the middle and allows the flour to like bind to each other. We do not want chewy, stretchy cookies because they're going to be tough to chew and they're going to be an unpleasant texture all around. So, without further ado, I bring you these perfect chocolate chip cookies. Now, the first thing that you want to do is basically melt the butter so that it's pretty much liquid form. As you can see here, I have melted 8 tablespoons of butter in the microwave for about 30 seconds. If it hasn't melted all the way by then, just stick it in for another 15 seconds. But as you can see, it's all liquid. It should not be hot, however. Make sure you don't want to overheat the butter, or else it would cause a different chemical reaction with the sugars. So we're gonna just pour that in there. And then to that butter, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of regular granulated sugar. Alright, now that that's done, we are going to cream the sugar together, which basically means that we'll use either your whatever utensils you have, or in this case, a hand mixer to mix the sugars together until they're nicely beaten together. So you gotta do this for like 3 to 5 minutes, so let's get started with that. Alright, now that we have a better camera angle, and now that I've actually propped up my camera, we can start by adding the eggs and vanilla to the bowl. Now, the important part of this step is that we do not want to overbeat our eggs, or else the cookies will become too tough. So we'll add 1 whole egg and a little teaspoon of vanilla, maybe less than a teaspoon. I don't really measure these things. The measurements are all in the recipe. Whatever, you'll figure it out. And then what you're gonna do is we're going to beat this very slowly until it's just barely mixed together. As you can see, the egg has just barely been incorporated with the rest of the ingredients. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the flour and the rest of the dry ingredients. So we're going to add 1.5 cups of flour. Get in there. We're going to add a little pinch of salt, because what cookie is good without salt? It helps balance out the flavors. And we're going to add a little pinch of baking soda. And we're going to beat this until everything is just incorporated and coming together. Now, the important part is, as we said earlier, we don't want to overbeat this flour mixture, lest we develop the gluten too much and we get chewy, tough cookies, which is something that we don't want. We want soft, beautiful cookies. Right, when you finish mixing your dough, it should look somewhat like this. If you poke it, it should be a little bit wet, but not too dry. You don't want it you don't want it sticking too much to your hand, but you also don't want it to be absolutely bone dry. Hydration is key for these cookies. So after we've incorporated all these elements, it's time for my favorite part, the chocolate chips of the chocolate chip cookies. So we're just gonna put about we're gonna put about 3/4 a cup of chocolate chips, and you can incorporate them with your hands, with mixing, whatever. Do whatever you want. But we just want to make sure that all these chocolate chips are evenly incorporated and that we have an even distribution so that, I mean, like, no one wants a chocolate chip cookie without any chocolate chips. Come on. So I'm just going to use my hand, which I have thoroughly washed. Stay safe. And we're going to just mix these cookies up with my hand. And once this is done, we're going to put these on a little... Once this is done, we're going to put this on a baking sheet and then put these in the oven at 400 degrees. Alright, we've set our oven temperature to 350 degrees, and now we're going to put our awesomely huge cookies into the oven for about 9 to 10 minutes. You want to make sure to check in on the cookies every now and then to make sure that they're not burning and, well, God forbid that they're overcooking. So let's just pop that in there, set a timer for 9 minutes, and then we'll check on it and see if it needs a little bit extra. Alright, so the cookies are done, which means we should take them out of the oven. As you can see, I've moved them to the bottom rack because I felt like they weren't getting brown enough, and also I added a few minutes on. So as you can see, we have a beautiful golden edge on the bottom, and I'm going to transfer these over to the place where they can be cooled. And the important part of the step is to not dig in right away. I know the temptation is real, but you want to make sure that the residual heat continues to cook the cookies and makes them a beautiful, soft, delicious flavor. Alright, now that we've waited long enough to have these cookies cool, let's inspect them. As you can see, we have a cookie right here, and if you lift it underneath, we have a beautiful brown bottom underneath. Delicious! And now, if we try the pull apart test, you can see that it's still beautifully gooey and delicious on the inside. But if we taste it right now, I don't even know what to say. Beautifully gooey, still soft. It might burn my mouth a little bit, but it's totally worth it for these beautiful, delicious cookies. So what are you waiting for? Make these delicious cookies yourself.